everybody. This is the Realty Remarks podcast with the Dwyer Team. This is Hannah Beauchamp speaking. I am currently sitting down at our office with Jerry Dwyer, Francis Fletcher, and Barbara Dwyer, and we are going to be talking to you more about our inside world into real estate and some topics that should really be considered in any moment of your life when real estate is a factor, friends or family. So, Jerry, if you'd like to introduce what we're going to be talking about today.
That's great, Hannah. You have a really good voice, like a really radio voice. I love that. It's really nice.
Woo!
So I wanted to what this topic that I thought we could talk about today, or should talk about today.
Sorry, go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
The topic that
taken back by my compliment I rarely get.
We should talk about. That's the last one. Don't get comfortable with it. I got a call from just a random person that was talking about selling their home, and they called into the office, and the conversation quickly went to this gentleman bought a property that was in the really, really busy time of 2022, the very start of 2022, actually February. And he bought an investment property that was, he was going to use as a student rental. And he bought the property in multiple offers, and it would have been a multiple offer situation, but he was being coached and working with an out-of-town agent that didn't know the London market at all. He bought from I'm not sure if it was Toronto or if it was Mississauga, but it wasn't. It was somewhere that way. And he bought the property with a preemptive offer, or people have heard the term bully offer before. And he spent $320,000 more than the list price for this property. And he called, and we were talking about what the current value was. And the conversation wasn't great because I had to explain to this guy that he overspent on this property by around $250,000, even at the time that he purchased it. So the value had dropped, and he owes more than the property's actually worth because he was buying it as an investment property and put down 20%. Even though that's a good chunk of money down, he still owes more than the property's worth today. So that was a very difficult conversation, and it just brought back memories of how the market was once I first got into the business in 2006, 2007, 2008, where people owed more on their home than it was actually worth. So I thought that would be a good topic to discuss and discuss the benefits of using a realtor in the area where you're purchasing or selling that knows the area there.
Yeah.
And how, what the benefits are and how it could affect you negatively.
And that was his comment to Jerry. I should have used a local realtor.
At the end, I said, well, I'm just curious why you didn't reach out to the realtor that you bought the property with. And he said, well, I was disappointed because I feel like I overpaid for the property, and I felt pressured into offering more than I wanted to in order to purchase this property, which was the time then. People were spending more, but on a preemptive offer, being coached by a realtor that wasn't local, didn't know the area that he was buying in, didn't know the market, and it affected him negatively.
Yeah, things going over list and multiple offers and preemptive and bully, like the way the market was, sometimes that needed to be done, but we're realizing a lot of conversations where there's people who are not getting the information that they need for the local market and have purchased based on, say, a GTA market. And those, because of the way the market was, the story that you have, for example, is not surprising. We're getting a lot more of those stories, right?
No, and you're right, and we're going to hear more of that moving forward, especially of all these people. When we look back at the market the way it was, on average, we don't see that influx of out-of-town buyers using an out-of-town realtor. But during that period of 3-4 years, we would see, what was it? It was above 20% of those homes were being sold by
I
Toronto.
can't in any market, though, understand the reasoning behind, okay, I'm buying in London, so let me reach out to my realtor from Goderich, or reach out to my realtor from Toronto, or from Vancouver, or from anywhere. So...
Well,
that being said, let's discuss the benefits of using a local realtor. So why would you use a local realtor?
And I think a lot of it comes down to understanding what expertise realtors have. What are you hiring a realtor for? Why hire a realtor opposed to doing it yourself? We talked about in the first episode. But if getting current, accurate information in your local market is usually the number one priority to guide you properly. And that is a lot of times the first mistake people can make is getting the information from someone who may feel they have the expertise. Because yes, we are licensed in all of Ontario.
Yep.
But
good point.
I don't know anything about a city I've never lived in.
Well,
or
because you
contacts I
can
don't know.
doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think so. The benefits of using a realtor, that's a good one, Hannah, is local knowledge of the local market. I mean, I feel like that's the most important thing. Every buyer we work with hears the term location, location, location. That's the most important thing. So why would you not work with somebody that knows that location?
Exactly. Why would you?
As your number one reason?
Yeah. Why would you hire
Francis,
someone?
Francis.
Francis, you
I actually
a point.
have real stories.
Great. Yeah, this is great.
Kind of, that's how I've been so successful in my real estate, because I seem to have lived everything you shouldn't have done.
Well, learn from mistakes,
You know, so anyway,
Yeah.
the one, I've got a couple of them, but the one that refers to what you guys were just talking about is I decided I wanted to move out of London about 8 years ago, go down towards King City, Kingsville,
Yeah.
and or Chatham or someplace like that. Being close, maybe I could get something on the water. So I used a realtor from London because if he needed the work or whatever, and I knew him. And so, but what I found was I had to drive down there, which was fine, and I ended up buying him lunch, and I drove him back. But to say, when we got there on the certain kind of houses I was looking for, I had a lot of questions about the neighborhood, wonder what's going up over across the street, a lot of questions about Kingsville. So he didn't know, because he's not from there, he wasn't experienced enough. And so I ended up, even though I found a house that I quite liked, I got very fearful. Luckily I did, because I didn't go ahead with the deal. Because he didn't know anything. So I should have said to my husband at the time, we're going to Kings, let's look up and find a realtor or get a referral from somebody here in London.
Correct.
And use somebody right from the town. The other thing, other quick story I'll tell is moving to London. I used a realtor from out of town from where I was living. Again, now they did drive that time, but anyway, but had I looked back, he never told me about Wortley. I love old houses. I want to live in a neighborhood of like that. I never even knew Old South. I went not from London. I didn't know about Old South. Some of the older homes he did show me were, in other areas, but not the kind I wanted. So I ended up just buying something to get moved because we had already made up our mind. And ever since then, I still talk about, gosh, I wish he had told me about Wortley.
But
Way
he
back
wasn't
then.
local, so he didn't know.
He wasn't local.
Yep.
He didn't know the value of Wortley. Maybe there wasn't too much for sale back then in there that he didn't bring it up. But I just think about that when you guys were talking. Yeah, I wish I'd
Those
used
weren't
a
even
local.
conversations, it seems like
No.
that should have been had. Yeah.
Well, exactly, but I didn't know. You just sort of use a friend or somebody, I know a realtor wherever you're living, but you're not doing them any favor either, because they could got a referral fee if that's what you're worried about
Correct.
with your friend.
Correct.
That's a good point, friends. I mean, some people want to use people that they know, which is great.
help
I'm not
them out.
knocking that, but
Yeah.
that person that would be happy, I'm sure, to refer you to an agent in the area where you're moving, regardless where that is. If you're moving 10 minutes away, if you're moving 10 hours away, there's always somebody in that area that can help you. That would know the area way better than somebody coming there to help you.
And it would
or
be a
try and show
win-win
you
for
things.
everybody if you
Yes.
thought about that, instead of, I've got to try and help my friend. Well, it took a lot of time, and it also cost somebody money,
Well, look,
to
I think
do that.
all of us have had family or friends outside of the city, still local enough, could drive down an hour or two, but immediate reaction is to refer them to somebody that knows the area. All of our
Correct.
friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we stand. That's our bare minimum because we know the value of a local realtor. One thing I do want to mention though, which was something I experienced. My parents, when I moved around a lot, what was important to them, because they had flexibility with their job and a little more option of where to be, it was the schools. Where are their kids going to school, right? That was the most important. They wanted, and it's when you're thinking about those things, it doesn't, everybody, you know, you can think you can just look up stats and see what scores are of schools, but unless you really know that city and know what the reputation is, know what the history is, know what, like, you know, I having the knowledge and comfortability to talk about London, even knowing some of the teachers in some of the school districts,
Correct,
makes you feel great about the knowledge that you have. And I would never feel comfortable for a family to recommend or have my expertise on a school district that will impact so much of their kids' growth. Like,
Yeah.
it becomes so much deeper than just a house purchase. And if you're not smart or you end up in a bad neighborhood, you know, your kids could end up in a bad group of people, and a lot of things dictate things. So, you know, where you live matters, location matters. That's the biggest thing with real estate: location, location, location. And whatever your meaning is, if it's kids, if it's family, if you want it, if you're single, location matters. And if you don't have the person to give you the knowledge on that location, opposed to just Google facts, you're not getting the right information to make the right decision, in my opinion.
absolutely. And I think also local realtor, it's the accessibility and the availability of that realtor. If you're looking in London and using a out-of-town realtor, well, they have their travel time here and their business there, and are they going to be available to show you the house you want to see
Yes.
today?
Yes.
Or are you going to have to wait until the weekend? Or
Principle aside, to just, you know, having the right guidance, it's about knowing what your realtor's doing in the background for you, opposed to an out-of-town realtor.
It's not just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just location, as you said, Hannah. There's always other things. So, for example, on that,
I press
we have,
the importance of that more.
We have a sports complex not that far from our house, and it's a lit sports complex, and we can hear the noise and see the lights from our house. But I knew that when we bought it because I live in the area. But that has come up to other people before that move into the area that we show properties to. They say, can you hear that sports complex? And if they don't ask, I bring it up and say, that is a lit. So they play soccer here till at least 11 p.m.
yes,
in the summertime.
Yes.
So I think that's important information. And the people that live close by that wouldn't know that, or an agent that wouldn't know, that could bother somebody. They may not want to hear that.
I narrowed in on the focus of schools in that scenario, but the reality is your community, your environment,
Sure.
the people you're around, what's around you, what plazas are going up, how many people have purchased homes and been so disappointed. And granted, there's only so much we can control, but when subdivisions go up behind them,
New build, construction,
only
yeah.
months later, right? They could have had a heads up. There's a lot of things that to think about. So, being in the community and being in the grocery stores, being in
Absolutely. Having your finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Exactly.
Definitely.
That's being in it day to day is what sets you apart from people Googling it every day.
Well, and it's our clients don't just ask us questions about real estate. As they're looking for homes in the city, oh, what's your favorite restaurant? Where's a great Indian restaurant? Where's
I will say we need
you know,
some more
what pharmacy do
private
you
business
like and why
owners
do you
to
like
open up,
them?
but-
And right? Well, I can answer those questions, my own opinion, of course, because I live here and I work here. And
support, of course.
yes, so
supporting local.
yeah, support the community.
I think I've tried every nail salon in the city. If anyone needs a contact,
Yes, absolutely.
Chicken wings, I am your man. Chicken wing.
Absolutely. And I mean, it is important. Local realtors live here, they support the community, they pay taxes. You know, it's great to use somebody local, particularly realtors,
and not just realtors.
and not just realtors.
Well, you're right. That brings us to, you're moving to London, or you're moving to Windsor, wherever you're moving to. Supporting local and building that circle that will benefit you living in the city or the area that you're in. So if you're if you're going to be living there, why wouldn't you get dentists or get lawyers or get mortgage people or get for the school stuff, doctors, everybody that you're going to be trying to utilize. So why would you not stay local?
And I mean, sometimes people move to the city and the only person they know is their realtor until they start meeting people. So guess what? They can call us and ask us any question. It doesn't just have to be about real estate. And we have people calling us years after purchasing to ask, I decided I want to get my living room painted. Who do you recommend?
That's a very good point.
You
Well,
know,
you're right. We have people for everything.
And at the end of the day, there's a million painters out there, but that's how we kind of start narrowing down with our experience and the benefit of having such a wide range of experience and age within the team too, is tried and true, right? You start realizing who are the people that you keep as and recommend, and who are the people that you move on from. So you have options. You can Google whoever you want, but talking with somebody who has been there, done that with various clients, how many times, you're going to get the most accurate
I think that, as Francis has mentioned,
expectations with your contact. Yeah.
Francis has mentioned in the past, I mean, when you're using somebody that you recommend, you've used them, or we've had clients use them, so that's an important way to build your sphere of influence, people that will help you along your path.
This is perfect. In the morning, I just got to babble, and then you guys just need to, like, trim it down and wrap it all up for
Sometimes
me.
that's tough, but we get it.
I remember showing a house a few years ago in Byron, and the owner was at home and following us around. And the home backed onto a green space. And it was maybe by chance, but I had just listened to the local news that morning, and they were talking about using that space and building on it. The property was owned by the school board at the time, but the school board had sold it to a developer. And the homeowner was following us around, and he said to my clients, the space behind us is green space and they can't ever build on it. I didn't say anything to the owner, but when we got outside, my buyers mentioned that to me. They said, well, it's green space, it's gorgeous, and they're never going to build on it. And I said, well, let me tell you about what I heard on the local news. And I said to them, if the green space is important to you, it might never be built on while you live here, but it might.
Yeah.
They decided not to buy as much as they loved the house. And every time I drive by that piece of property now that is no longer a green space with houses, I'm just so thankful. But what if I was an out-of-town realtor? Would I have known that?
I mean, and that comes up
don't-
frequently, and when you're looking at vacant land behind property, how can we ever
What's gonna be built there?
Absolutely.
say it's never going to be built on, especially with lack of land? They're building on spaces that they said they would never build on already. So I can only imagine
Absolutely.
how that's going to change. So that's a good point. I mean, how would an out-of-town realtor know that? I mean, just knowing that that was just something you'd heard on the news.
But just by chance listening to the local news that morning, getting ready for work, and they were talking about it, and I thought, and then they did build on it about 5 years after, and my buyers would have still been in the house because they're still in the house I sold them. So
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that can get overlooked, or it's just not thought of at the time that could really affect your value. I mean, as Hannah mentioned earlier, talking about schools and stuff. So, knowing that even though you may not be using the schools in the area, or utilizing local stuff, that's going to be a big importance. It could affect resale. So knowing that the school district might be great for the next buyer, that's why it's always great to have some amenities around you that will help resale. Even if they're not important to you right now, they could be important to the buyer coming in later on, whether that's 2 years or 20 years later.
yes, for sure.
So I feel like that's a big deal as well, knowing what's around you and how it can affect value.
And that was a big thing for people to think about with the when we were at the peak of it and things were a little bit crazier. Everyone was in a mindset to just get into the market, but we also wanted to coach our clients to consider this isn't just about getting you in the market, it's also about thinking about down the line.
Definitely.
Or when the market changes, when you're reselling, because it's always a change, and
Well, it is. I mean, you can't control a lot
That's a
of
whole nother
what
topic.
happens in the city, but knowing what's around you and how it can affect you, whether that's a positive or a negative. So for me, I lived in a property once that was near train tracks, but it didn't bother me, but it might be a nuisance for somebody coming in to buy, they may not want it.
Some people
So-
might want it just to go to sleep. That's their soothing sound.
What? Soothing sound of trade.
Yes, so I
Right,
think that what the story is here, if you're listening from out of town and you're thinking of moving to London, well, you know that the Dwyer
Or
team
St.
is here
Thomas.
to help you,
Sure.
or St. Thomas,
But anybody,
absolutely.
well, the point is whether, and if you don't have anybody, we're happy to help. But use somebody that you trust that knows the local market. Definitely,
Yeah.
Francis, good job. I think that is probably the most important takeaway here.
Yeah.
Is knowing that you should use somebody in the area, regardless who that is, that has the knowledge that will benefit you.
And one thing that I really like about, just before we wrap this topic up, is as a team, we all have our own experiences of places we've lived, we've gone, we've seen. You know, Francis has had a life in Exeter. I've had a life in other places in southwestern Ontario. Barb is part American. We have, I don't know if you
Don't hold that against
secrets out, secrets out.
The secrets. Yeah.
But part American.
Or go.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a great benefit to us because we've also learned from each other, different communities and how real
Yeah.
estate works in different areas of Ontario.
All right, love it.
Yeah.
I think that's a major thing to consider when you're looking for the purchase and or using a realtor to sell as well.
And recommending
Do something.
people that you know in those areas.
Definitely.
When you're not the one to be, if we're not able to guide you. Okay, we're going to wrap this up and take a break. Thank you so much for listening this far. And when we come back, we're going to be talking some more interesting stories, and we'll talk.
We'll take it up shortly.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay, in our last segment, we were talking about using a local realtor and the benefits of that.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody.
And you probably heard the ringtones of the phones,
Yeah.
which shouldn't have been on, but they were. So
Hannah, Francis.
Always working. Sorry.
So one of the benefits of using a local realtor is that they usually have a great
Like a
circle
service
of
circle.
service.
That's a great topic. Great service circle. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Love that.
so I'm going to tell you a little story. You had to use my own service circle during COVID.
Oh boy, COVID story.
Oh yeah, during COVID, we had a light bulb burn out in our fridge. Oh, here goes Hannah again.
I think I cursed. I'm so sorry.
Oh my eyes.
And we had to drive to the other side of town because the place where we bought our refrigerator didn't stock the bulbs and sent us to
Phone volume is off.
a place across the city. So we went there, and believe it or not, the bulbs that we needed for our refrigerator were $60 a piece. And we have two in the fridge, and one had burnt out. So my husband, thinking he was doing a good thing, thought, well, I'll buy two because surely to goodness the other one will go. So $120 later
For light bulbs.
for light bulbs.
Nice.
And the more I thought about it, anyway, guess what? The second bulb burnt out. Now we're down to no extra bulbs, and the light bulb went out again this week. So I picked up the phone and I called my own electrician, somebody I recommend all the time, and I said, look if I take pictures of this bulb, surely to goodness there must be some kind of a replacement. Well, he thought on it for a while, sent me back a text and said, I think you can use Noma light bulbs A15. No A15s anywhere on this bulb, but he said, and I also researched, you can get them at Home Depot, 4 in a pack for $17.99. So I really wish I would have used my own advice during COVID, and I would have called the electrician. So a service circle, somebody you know and trust, is so very important. I can't stress that enough. I mean, we could have saved ourselves a lot of money.
At the end of the day, people are out there doing their businesses. You have your choices of who you use, but you don't know if you're being overcharged. You don't know if you're being misdirected. You need people that you can trust with everything, with service, with lawyers, with mortgage agents, with professionals. And the fact that we, as a team, we only recommend people we use.
Or
Correct.
clients have used.
Or clients have used
Yeah.
and highly recommended, right? So there's no, and I think that's very telling. Do the people that are recommending these people to you use those people?
Absolutely,
Right?
and
And
we
how many
always
times-
ask them for feedback. When we recommend somebody, we always ask them for feedback. And sometimes our clients help us out too, because they'll say, oh, you know, the pharmacist that you recommended us to, he told me when I was in last week that he's retiring. And so we get on the ball and try to find somebody else to recommend, because those people, you know, your service circle, they're going to retire or move away, or
I mean,
and they
remember
need
that great,
replacements.
we had a really great plumber that we always recommended, and that guy changed jobs. He went from a residential plumber to a commercial plumber and wasn't doing any res jobs anymore.
Correct.
So we had to ask that plumber to recommend somebody, and that turned out to be a great recommendation there.
Absolutely.
So getting
And-
recommendations from our
And to
sphere
play
is great,
devil's
too.
advocate too, sometimes things happen. Like we're not in no control of people. Sometimes someone's business could once be something, and as time goes on, it's not what it used to be. And so it's also important to, have more than one contact.
I mean, who was that we were using? I think it was a roofing company it was two friends that started the company, and they were amazing. And then they started getting kind of big, and then their service started to suffer a little bit. And then they started cutting business back to go back to just them, to bring the service back that they
Yes.
initially had, because their service started to kind of dissipate.
Yes.
So they noticed it themselves. So it's funny how things, you're right, Hannah, things can change over time. So we really are
always having to be on the ball.
conscious of
Yeah.
who's on that circle. Absolutely.
I think that, but asking a realtor, because it would reflect back on a realtor. So they are only going to give you good advice on what service you would want to use, because you want your clients as a realtor to be happy with them, So one story, when I moved in an older home, turning on the light fixture in the dining room, all of a sudden things were popping and smoke was coming out of the ceiling, and it's a Sunday, and
It's always a Sunday.
I was freaked out because I thought it's an older home. Is there smoke up in the attic now?
Yeah.
Is it burning in the attic? How do I know? I can't leave the house, So I thought, what do? I phoned my realtor, because I didn't have a clue who would come out on a Sunday, all these things. And I'm telling you, he gave me an answer immediately with a phone number, and I phoned that, and that referral came out, and it was nothing. It was just the wrong bulb put into that particular chandelier, and it just sort of popped and smoked. But he made sure the house was safe, and so that's because the realtor knew who to ask. So,
Exactly.
Same day service on a
yeah.
referral.
And it
That's
cost
fantastic.
more because it was Sunday, but it was worth it, and the fact that I knew who to call.
Well, when it comes
Who do
to
you
a
call?
house, it's all hands on deck. Like you have so many factors and so many contacts and professionals that you want to have in your corner, and it's almost overwhelming. Especially like I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, so for them, this is the home maintenance part of it, and electricians
Yeah,
and
they have
furnace.
nobody, right?
Oh my gosh,
Nobody.
they'd rather just have everything. It'd be easier to be in a condo, to be honest, with
Yes.
some stuff too, right? So, and the biggest thing when it comes to the process with lawyers, mortgage professionals, people who, because we were not taught how to buy your first home in school. We weren't really taught that.
Right.
There's a lot in the dark, and the overwhelmingness to these first-time home buyers, if you start treating them like they're not intelligent, or start showing that, because some people get used to their older clientele who have a little bit more knowledge because they bought and sold. And so sometimes I've noticed too with professionals, you have to make sure they're matching with someone who makes them feel good, who makes them feel empowered, who they feel they trust,
Right.
and are a good match for them. Because sometimes someone could be great at what they do, but they're not great for that client or that person or that type of relationship.
Right.
Very good
If-
point.
that makes sense.
And you know, we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
service circle
Good point.
people now calling us and saying, hey Barb, you might want to add this person to your service circle. Our travel agent called us and gave me the name of a great accountant because she knew my accountant had retired.
Yeah,
And
that's amazing.
I have not used her referral yet, but I'll certainly be checking them out because you never know.
Yeah, and it's important to me. I'm always asking too, like if I can support anybody's local businesses, I will always try to do that as well, and use people who are local rather than
Absolutely.
any corporations.
They live
like-
here, they pay taxes, they know, your service circle.
No one wants to pay the big
is
box
Also,
money.
I call them up and ask them questions. It's not just the other way around necessarily, but it's great, and it's a great way to build my business
Mm-hmm.
and for them to build their business. And if I can help them do that, I'm happy to do that.
But I am a firm believer in anything, in your job, in real estate, in what we do with any profession as consumers. Who you recommend is a representation on yourself.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's not something that is ever taken lightly. And that's why we always try to provide more than one option. So we're also not pushing anyone on someone.
Of course. I
They
mean,
need to
just-
decide for themselves. We might think somebody probably is the best of the best, but the personality match for that person just might not work.
Right.
And that might not be the best of the best for that person. Another person will be. So you give options.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good point here is we have people for everything, from soup to nuts. We can help you out through any avenue. As you mentioned earlier, you're looking for a great steak restaurant. We know, like we've done,
And not just the
research into it.
keg. We get
We've done all that. I mean, we have accountants, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have
I have friends in
plumbers, we have
every
roofers, we
type
have-
of industry.
You want your
Yeah.
driveway sealed. I mean, we have people
That's
for all
right.
that. So if your bathtub reglazed, we have people for that. Like we have everything.
And they're tried and true people that clients and you have used,
Yeah.
and we have used,
That's
and
right.
parents have used, and family has used.
Yes.
And that's what builds those relationships.
And we're always adding to that as we get to know people, or our clients tell us about somebody, or
Yeah, that,
And when our people are loyal to our clients and give our clients a great experience, we're very loyal to those businesses as well. That's
Absolutely.
just who we are.
yeah, I
you
mean
know?
that advertising and word of mouth seems to be not only do we appreciate that, but so do our so does the service circle that we recommend. A lot of it is nothing's better than a recommendation from somebody that's used that person before.
And it's all tied into supporting local, but also knowing that it benefits you for local.
Have
right?
them on
Like-
speed dial. That's right.
Yeah, and how many times too that they're using a friend of the family or a friend of a friend that somebody used, and how many scam stories I've heard. I've heard actually a couple. They hired somebody on Kijiji to paint or help with their popcorn ceilings, I believe. He came,
To scrape off
started-
the-
yeah. Came, started the job, disappeared with a huge mess left behind.
oh boy.
Took half the money, was going to get paid in full at the end, and ran away. And they were stuck with a disaster because they wanted to find,
Yeah.
and understandably so, any young home buyer is trying to find ways to do anything at a good price.
Sure, a
Right?
great
But there's
job at a
people
reasonable
out
price.
there who are scammers, and you got to be careful. Even how many people are out there, I guess that's a whole nother topic, but trying to buy your house with the letters.
Absolutely.
That's a whole other topic.
Absolutely.
So yeah, good point. Service circle, I think, is another big thing that doesn't end once you move into your house. You can contact us for anything. We have people for all that.
Yeah, and people that we know aren't gonna leave you stranded
right.
and take your money. That's all we want for the public. Whether you ask us, your realtor, someone, just get a recommendation for someone that is actually known.
Well, I think that is going to be whether you buy or rent. We've got that for everything.
So I think that's gonna be a great time to wrap things up for today. And we are gonna be talking, again, we're just kind of getting into the flow of this, guys. This is our second podcast. We really appreciate those who have been staying with us and listening.
Yeah. So I think you and I ended it the last time we were talking about we would love your input, guys, on topics that concern you or that you may find interesting or something that's happened, stories. We loved all that stuff. So don't hesitate to reach
Yeah.
out to us, and we're happy to talk about any questions that you guys have out there.
Yeah, you can put it in the comments. You can message us directly if it's
Yeah.
like. We love to hear your stories and what you want to know. What are your questions? This is our everyday life. We talk every day
That's a
about
good
this
point.
stuff.
You're right. We do it every day, and knowing that, as you mentioned earlier, sometimes seasoned sellers and buyers, they've done it before. It could be their third or fourth move, but they don't do it every day,
Yeah.
or we do. So we know what to look out for and how to make this as stressless on you as we can.
And we're trying to choose topics that are going to be the most entertaining to you. And so if there's anything that you recommend, please send it our way and we'll get on that for future episodes.
Love
Thanks
it.
for listening. This is the Dwyer Team with the Realty Podcast. Everyone say bye.
Bye.
See you next time.
Have a great week.
Will it pick this up? It will. I'm worried about. I just noticed that now when I set my
Gotta do like
teacup
the
down.
T-Rex.
Here, put it on this. Put it on this.
I don't slam mine down, so I don't have.
I don't normally, Hannah. Okay, I got you the first thing, Hannah.
Normal talking, no banging.